and so are the tape recorders. So we wanted to do a little bit of an intro to the importance and the history of 26 2nd Avenue. And as most of you probably know, 26 2nd Avenue is the original place that the Hare Krishna movement was started. And it's in New York, near Houston Street on 2nd Avenue. And this spot was originally given or made possible for Srila Prabhupada by the help of Mike, who actually became Mukunda, and he was aware that Srila Prabhupada had issues with his former roommate, who had gotten too much involved in LSD and amphetamines and actually attacked Prabhupada. So the idea was for Prabhupada, he moved for a short time to Carl Jurgens, and then that wasn't working out, so eventually Prabhupada wound up wondering whether there was some other place that he could move. So from the Bowery, where they were artists in residence, he moved to Lower Manhattan, which is 26 2nd Avenue. There was a agent named Mr. Gardner who helped make the deal, and Prabhupada got not only 26 2nd Avenue, but a little apartment that was behind 26 2nd Avenue, where Prabhupada actually stayed. And this is where the Hare Krishna movement basically started. And then we'll let Pancaratna explain a little bit more about the early devotees who were part of the 26 2nd Avenue scene.
I think it's good to note how Srila Prabhupada made that journey from the Upper West Side of Manhattan, which is well-to-do, to the Lower East Side and the East Village, which was the epicenter of the counterculture, and how he just slid in, and he made himself, he just adopted the people and their aspirations, and I think that was a major part of how Mukunda and others were readily willing to accept him as their Swami, because he related to them. And so anyway, so that he, as you said, Mukunda was the one who helped Srila Prabhupada find 26 2nd Avenue, and he found it in a newspaper advertisement. They went, they saw it, and Prabhupada negotiated expertly to get the price down, and then set up shop and began continued actually, because he had been doing the Gita presentations from the loft on the Bowery, but so that was sort of a continuation of what had been going on, but now it was official. Now there was a place, and now there was a sign in the window. And people began to come. That those first, there was the Mott Street crew, these devotees who were staying together. One, I think it was Hayagriva, who spotted Srila Prabhupada walking and approached him and said, "Oh, are you from India?" And then the conversation ensued, because he had just been, Hayagriva had been to India, and had come back, and so that sparked the interest of his roommates, which were Umapati, Kirtananda. They were all staying together. So that was one of the core group. Gargamuni and his brother Brahmananda were another of the early batch. There was a number of devotees that got things going in 26 2nd Avenue. But so it's such a significance there. In I think it's the Hare Krishna movie, the movie of Hare Krishna, the movement, the mantra that Yadavar did. So there's a little interview Of course, this comes a little later when ISKCON is founded, which is not too much later, maybe a month, 2 months later. And this is it's Hopkins, I think. One of these professors, I wish my memory is not so good. But anyway, he comments how he visited and he spots in the window International Society for Krishna Consciousness, and it's this little storefront with a motley crew of East Village denizens, and he's looking at it and said, "Well, this is quite ambitious."
Yeah,
but it was.
Prabhupada
saw it. He saw this is going to be it. So. It's such a place of significance, 26 Second Avenue. It's become the pilgrimage tirtha of New York, and for all devotees. The miracle on 26 Second Avenue, miracle on Second Avenue. That Mukunda wrote that book about his whole journey with Prabhupada. Miracle on Second Avenue. It was a miracle, and we're still here.
Right. And then some of those devotees actually wound up going to Oregon and finally to...
Yes, Mukunda. That in his book, Miracle on Second Avenue, he describes how after his wedding there and so on, he's ready to move on. He thinks, I'm going to go to India. And in just sort of a casual conversation, Prabhupada says to him, well, you're going to San Francisco. He tells him he's going to San Francisco. He says, you can start a center there. And those few words were enough. He meets Guru Das and Jamuna and Shyama Sundar and Malati, and they trek off to San Francisco, and they do it. They start a center. And when they're ready, they call Srila Prabhupada for the Mantra Rock Fest.
Right. And we see that about that same time, in New York, gradually more devotees start coming. Some of the early devotees, some of which will be giving their Vyasa Puja offerings in a short while, and that was people like Satsvarup and Jayadvaita. And who else were part of that early?
Well, who are still present. Jadharani was there, of course. Brahmananda Gargamuni is with us, but in Vrindavan, I don't think he'll be part of that. But Tosan Krishna was one of those devotees that I recall being there. Well, this is a good question. We'll have to do a little more research, but maybe in the course of this evening we can reflect on some of those.
Right. So the significance of 26 Second Avenue is really that Prabhupada came there with no expectations of what would happen in the United States. He almost gave up and went back to India, but some devotees started coming, and then little by little he would do regular, you say 3 times a week?
Yeah, he started with his Bhagavad Gita classes 3 times a week, and then the Sunday feast started there. So the Sunday feast was a big event. Prabhupada cooked everything. I remember this story about how one day somebody, because Prabhupada would not only cook everything, he would also clean up. He would serve everything. He would wash the dishes. He did everything. And it's noted how one day one of the devotees, or I call them devotee, but one of the guests turns and said, "Do you need any help?" And Prabhupada said, "I was waiting for someone to offer." No, I'm reminded, and of course that's where the Sankirtan began. That's where, I think, I remember that Brahmananda stating that the first outing was actually the devotees went out on their own with doing kirtan to Washington Square. But then it became Prabhupada's program to go to Tompkins Square Park. And that in many ways, that's kind of the seed. When he takes his little band and they go out and they start Harinam Sankirtan in the park.
In Tompkins Square.
In Tompkins Square Park. And then going regularly. Right. And then people coming back, and the whole thing starts to take off from there.
So, even today, of course, people come to New York and they visit our temples in New York, and then they go to 26 Second Avenue. Usually it's not open unless one makes an appointment.
Yes.
There's a Wednesday program, at least there was, where the Bhakti Center had somebody speak about Prabhupada on every Wednesday in the evening. And of course, if you go there, you can see pictures of Srila Prabhupada in those days. And you can look out the back window to see the second story. There's a courtyard right behind Prabhupada's spot where he used to sit at 26 Second Avenue. And then on the other side of that open courtyard is a building where Prabhupada actually lived. On the second floor, he had an apartment there. So there is some effort and some work. Actually, even right now, there are renovations going on at 26 Second Avenue, and the purpose or the concept of those renovations is to try to make 26 Second Avenue look at least as much as possible in appearance the way it did during those days when Prabhupada was actually there. At one point in New York, buildings and rooms used to have a tin ceiling. I remember that when I was a child in New York City. And of course, that went the way of the dodo. Nobody does that anymore. But they're going to try to put that type of tin ceiling in 26 Second Avenue. And we will be, hosting some of the Vyasa Puja presentations that you're going to see on this video cast. You'll be seeing them spoken live from 26 Second Avenue. And we'll also pan the camera a little bit so you can see what 26 Second Avenue looks like right now. We are not certain whether the renovations will be actually fully complete by the time we do this, which is a week from now. We're recording this little introduction into the 26 Second Avenue storefront about a week early, but at least theoretically the renovation should be in place. If not, we'll show you what we can show you.
And you can imagine.
Right.
Maybe we can throw some pictures in. We can find some pictures and we can
find some pictures.
Throw it in.
So we are hoping we have about 23, 25 devotees or so slated to speak during this Zoom cast, and it will be, uploaded simultaneously to various different YouTube channels and available afterwards for people who didn't have a chance to stay through the whole thing. And I'll put timestamps on the various offerings so that a person can just go to the particular individual they're interested in speaking to, hearing speak. Any other final items that you might want to add about the importance or the history or the...
Well, I think we can reflect on how Srila Prabhupada chose New York to come and begin his service of fulfilling Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's order to spread Krishna consciousness in the West. And that, any of us who stay in New York, I think can understand that, New York has all of this potential to create and to distribute throughout the world trends and cultures and so on. So I think that was part of his vision, that New York has got some power, and now that power has been infected with Srila Prabhupada's entry in 26 Second Avenue. And I think 26 Second Avenue, the fact that it's still there, the fact that it's still with us, it's still our place, is a testimony to the power and the future and the potential of our movement. That here we are, and when we visit it's a constant reminder of Srila Prabhupada's willingness to begin very humbly and just take the small beginning and let it grow like a seed into a huge tree. So it's a wonderful feeling to be present in that space.
So if you're planning to visit New York, be sure to include 26 2nd Avenue on your schedule of things to visit, your bucket list. And you can connect with devotees either at the Bhakti Center or the center in Brooklyn to find out how to connect with someone who can open or
come to one of the programs. Every Saturday night, we continue the tradition, the program of Srila Prabhupada to have Bhagavad Gita class. Now is Saturday night. Every Saturday at 5:30 we begin. We have a Bhagavad Gita class, so you'll be able to get in there. And still new people are coming, and still the mood and the spirit is there of 26 2nd Avenue. So
we have Wednesday night and Saturday night. Is there any other program?
There was a Friday night program, and I'm not sure if it's because COVID kind of threw things in a bit of a spin. Right. But there was a special program on Friday night as well. And let's gradually bring it back to more every day, perhaps.
So thank you all very much for tuning into this simultaneous Zoom webcast that's about to take place. And all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, all glories to the 26 2nd Avenue and all the temples that opened up after that moment in time when the first temple was established. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Bol.